And welcome back to another episode of Business is Pleasure. So before we go into our show, every week we get a camera ready, get the mic ready. Claude has two jobs as well. One of her jobs is to write down all the topics we're going to be talking about and also to get the timer ready. And she can't do the timer thing correctly. And it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating. It just goes to show that Claude has this bad connection when it comes to time. She's just not good at time. And I don't know why. It makes me sad sometimes. It really, really hurts my heart. But enough about Colette. My name is John Francis, and I am the co-owner of the Client on Trading Company. We source, distribute, market, and distribute vintage clothing globally, hype-use clothing, used clothing, you name it, we try and do it. And every week on Business is Pleasure, we take some time to really examine our previous week, how things are going, how our relationship is going, the whole dynamic between those two things. And the best way, and the only way we start off the show is, Colette, how was your week?
My week was really busy.
Your week is always busy.
No, my week was really busy.
Okay, what made your week so busy?
Because my other job was just really, really busy. Really busy.
Okay, let me get some details. Let me break it down.
I was busy. I was just so busy every day.
Okay, without using busy, can you explain to me how busy it was?
All my students had tests, and it was just really hectic and really busy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just really tired from it.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm good. All the tests are done.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel better now.
So how do you think with having your full-time job, full-time job, and then also having Client on Co, how do you think that affects how maybe punctual with the business and with your workplace you're able to be?
Sometimes it affects it a little bit negatively because with my other job, there isn't any leeway. I can't be oh, I didn't have time to do this today, so I'll do it another day. It's I have to do it on this day because there's numerous people, hundreds of students pretty much that are depending on me to get something done in a certain amount of time. Whereas with our business, sometimes I don't necessarily take it for granted, but sometimes I'll be I'll push it aside because it's my own business. So I do have the opportunity to do things a little bit later. There is a little bit more of a grace period and understanding. But
it's one of the
at the
benefits
same time,
of having a business though, right? That's when you're able to really create your own schedule around it.
Yeah.
But I think on the negative aspect of that is because before this whole started, we were talking about how business isn't hard once you understand the system that allows your business to be effective, but consistency is the hard part, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we even noticed as well too, right? If we're not able to be consistent, just posting online, our sales decline significantly.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a hard spot because yes, there is that benefit of making your own schedule, but if you aren't consistent and you aren't doing the work in a consistent manner, your business is going to be affected regardless. So it's just one of those things that you do have the luxury and the freedom to be I'll do it when I want, but you can't just always do it when you want because then that's going to negatively affect your sales. So.
And that's one of the craziest things too. I think people need to have an understanding when it comes to running a business. Doing things whenever you want, okay, sure, that is a part of business, but you need to do them in a systematic way. Yes, you should do the accounting whenever you want, but it should be done every Thursday. Yes, you should be able to just go thrifting whenever you want, but you should have specific dates to get that done so you can do your marketing as well, so you can do your shipping. And I think sometimes people aren't honest enough with the new aspiring entrepreneurs. Let them know yes, having a business allows you to be more versatile with your schedule, but you still need a schedule. And I think some people have that misconception. It's I'm just going to run this business, do whatever I want. I'm going to go on vacation. It's going to run itself. It's a majority of businesses out there don't run themselves.
Not until a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, maybe 5-10 years down the line, you may have some kind of business where it's just running itself, or you have employees that kind of do the work for you for the most part, where you can just kind of check out for a bit, maybe. But I don't know about anyone else, but I know my business right now, it's not at that stage where it can just run by itself.
Definitely not.
I need to do the work. I need to be consistent. And we were just talking about that's the hard part about business. It's not the fact that business itself is hard. Once you figure it out, it's pretty much smooth sailing from there.
Yeah, for sure.
With a few tweaks and bumps in the road, of course, but it's the consistency that's the hardest part. Because you're accountable to yourself. You know what I mean? So like when you're at work, like a regular, like say 9 to 5 job or whatever, like you have your boss that holds you accountable. You have your other coworkers that hold you accountable or whatever, you know? Like you can't just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna show up at like 11 when you're supposed to start at 8. You know what I mean? Whereas like when it's your own business, like you're the only person that can hold yourself accountable. So sometimes it is a little bit easy to be like, you know what, I'm gonna do this later. I'm gonna do this another day because like it's only you. You know, so like that's the hard part.
And the coolest thing, well, I wouldn't say the coolest thing, I think like one of the best aspects about running a business is that like you can know within like a week or even the day what's working and what's not, because your previous results aren't the same, right?
Yeah.
For instance, like with us, we weren't posting as consistently. Then we realized, hey, like usually we're doing like 50 orders a week, and now we're down to like 30 or like 25. Like, what's going on? Then we like found that one variable, and of course it's because like I wasn't posting it like the 6 times a day. You weren't posting it twice a day or whatever. And then the next 3 days, we're like, okay, let's get back on track, and bam, things went right back up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's like once you realize what system is working for you,
Focus on that.
and then when you start to like sway off that course, that's when you can really realize, okay, well, I was doing this incorrectly, let me get back to this and keep it up.
I was actually watching my favorite show the other day, Real Housewives, and this lady on it, she was an accountability coach, and I was like, why do people need that? I didn't understand it, but now like it actually makes sense, because like especially if you're like an entrepreneur or like whatever, or even if you're just trying to like you have your personal goals, like you're trying to like lose weight or like gain weight or whatever the case is, like if you don't have someone that's holding you accountable, sometimes it's really hard to do that, you know?
That's crazy. Honestly, there's a business for anything, eh? Oh my God. It's like,
Yeah,
basically she just goes around and makes people feel guilty.
Yeah, she's an accountability
She God?
coach. So she she'll like check in. She'll be like, oh, did you drink water today? Did you eat like whatever today? Like, and if they say no, then it's like they
So it's
don't.
a lot of babysitting though.
Yeah, like you don't want to look bad to that person, right? So you're more likely to do what you said you're gonna do. The same reason why people have like mentors and like whatever, because like it's someone to hold you accountable.
No, it's definitely true, and I think that's for me. I'm not that bad when it comes to my accountability. I'll be straight up like, yeah, like I'm not doing this correct. I need to get back on course. But I hold myself responsible for that stuff, right? But I could definitely see some people where they're like, one, they either don't know how to take that positive criticism and be like, hey, you should have done X, Y, and Z, like try to stay on course, or they just don't realize the things that they're doing incorrectly. So I can definitely see how having someone there as like a bystander just to look on your life and be like, hey, bro, like, you know, you can get back on course with things. Like, you're not doing things like as accurately as you should have. So I think if you are someone that does need someone else there, or like a third party to like motivate you, to push you, to ensure that you get everything done, by all means, like do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like for me to sit there and be like, oh man, this is so stupid, like this is useless. But if it works for you, go for it, man.
Yeah.
Go for it, like 100%.
Why not?
100%. So one thing that I think we can like jump into now is just the Ottawa Vintage Clothing Show. We talked about the Toronto Vintage Clothing Show a couple weeks ago and how that was amazing. Ottawa, of course, is a smaller town, smaller vintage demographic, so we don't always expect like the same results as we would in Toronto. But I think in Ottawa we had a number that we wanted to go for. We didn't reach that number, but in the reality of it is we still had a great event. And I think that's what's most important, goes back to consistency. We try not to focus on these events as a one-off, but more so like the overall year, right? How is this helping us reach our monthly goal of X? And like also Catherine, she actually said something that like stuck with me. She was like, oh, how was the show? I'm like, yeah, it went well, like, you know, it was good. And she's like, yeah, you guys probably have like a decent following now. Then it dawned on me, it's like, yeah, we're here like all the time. And also like it's the same audience at the 613 Flea at this show as well. So it's like, even though we don't sell to like the repeat customers, for them to see our face, that sometimes is better than a sale, you know? And them to know like, hey, like, these guys talk to me, they remember my name, they remember what I bought last time. Like, that stuff is so important when it comes to customer service. And I think some businesses sometimes take that stuff for granted. I remember I was online and there was this like big hypebeast business in Toronto. And I know it's not good to judge people's businesses, but I'm judging you. Because when it comes to customer service, I don't think you can ever like cheap the customer out on customer service. And they said how they don't answer DMs anymore. And for me, I was just like, that's ridiculous. Like how dare you guys feel as if like you're too good, or the questions your customers are trying to ask or request from you guys aren't good enough for you guys to take 2 minutes to be like, hey, no, sorry, yes, no.
Yeah, and also too, like, at the end of the day, like, customer service is what differentiates your business from another business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially in like the area that we're in with like reselling clothing, used vintage, streetwear, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us have pretty much the same stuff.
Yeah.
For the most part. Yeah, like there's those people, those businesses that are like collectors and they have really rare, really sought after pieces, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
But for the majority, we all kind of generally have the same stuff. So it's like someone is going to come to your business over somebody else's because you're more personable, or because you have greater customer service, or because when they DM'd you through Instagram, you actually answered and you didn't wait 2 days to get back to them. Like there's little things like that that go a long way when it comes to like where people choose to spend their money. Because at the end of the day, like you can never take that for granted. Like as a business owner, you're asking people to spend their hard-earned money that a lot of people will probably slave away at a 9 to 5 to get their paycheck. You're asking them to spend their hard-earned cash on something that you provide to feed you. You know what I mean? So it's like you can never like disrespect that relationship and that dynamic, because at the end of the day, like you work for your customer. They don't work for you. Like
100%.
they're not begging, they're not asking for anything. You're working for them. You're supposed to cater to them and cater towards their needs. So
yeah, and that's the reality of it too, right? Like sometimes business need to understand is that like our company product is not that special. They can find it anywhere else, you know? So if we're rude, if we're dishonest, if we're disloyal, it could be the smallest thing that will motivate your customer to go to someone else. So for us, we believe, of course, is like one, how can we bring value? And two, just try to be courteous as much to people. Yeah. And what's funny is like, it's not even a business thing, it's a life thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? Like you want to be courteous to like the bum on the side of the road or the president of the United States
like
or whatever.
Just treat people with respect.
Yeah, that's all it is at the end of the day, you know what I mean? But yeah, so back to the whole auto vintage clothing show. So for us, it's always like, okay, well, if we can't always get a sale, let's try to at least like give the best type of customer service as possible, you know what I mean? And I think that's really important because of course there are sometimes customers that are like really high maintenance. They'll try on 10 pairs of jeans, they'll try on 10 shirts and or whatever, you know what I mean? They'll mess up our booth, but the reality of it is like, we are there for you. You know what I mean? That's why a lot of times when we tell people to like look at our jeans, we're like, guys, don't worry about it. Go crazy. Don't worry about messing it up because like we're here to make sure everything is neat and tidy for you guys.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, you know what I mean? It's like you're gonna help us out by like purchasing our products, helping us reach our financial goals. So like what the least we can do is fold a pair of jeans back together.
Yeah.
And that's
like,
nothing, you know?
It's like without customers, you don't have a business.
That's what I really like too. One thing that I think that's really cool too, like a lot of our content, we're always finding ways not to necessarily create content, but just document. So we'll document the different shows, different events, and different things that we're always doing. And it's cool to see that like people that follow us online are now going to the same events that we're going to. Because with us, we've always found it important to like bring value to the community, whether it's through the products or like the type of services that we're trying to introduce. Yeah. Because the one thing that we know is that like if the bigger the vintage community becomes, the more eyes that are going to eventually come back to our business.
And the better it is for everyone.
Exactly. Like, you know, so like when there are other businesses that are similar to us that sell like identical or very similar items, and now they're doing the same shows as us, one, it brings more people into the shows because it's more businesses promoting the show, and also more people that are like the same demographic as us now being introduced to the show as well, right? Which gives us an opportunity to again bring value to our clients and also bring the best products as possible.
Yeah.
And it goes to show that too, like what we're doing is working. Because sometimes like we don't realize it ourselves. We have to like look at it through someone else. And for us to realize like, hey crap, like if these guys are doing the events too and it's working well in their favor, clarity, the information we're putting out there is beneficial.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, you know, so I think that's always important.
And like I've in the past like couple of years have noticed the big change at a lot of the events that we started going at.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that we're like still continuing to go to, but like the demographic has changed. Like I don't know, I'm sure like vintage and like the popularity of it and it changing has something to do with it as well. But I remember when we first did like the auto vintage clothing show, for example, like we were the only like streetwear type of vintage there. Everyone else was like 1930s like vintage, and like the only like customers that we would really have would be like you know, people coming with their moms and dads, like, you know, like younger people coming with their parents, but not really like anyone coming there specifically for stuff like ours. But now, after we've been doing it for the past like couple of years, and like other businesses like ours have also started doing it as well, now there's a larger demographic of people that are actually there for that type of vintage, the streetwear, the like 90s, 80s type of vintage, as opposed to like the way back type of stuff.
It's so true, and that's why I think it's always good to like just try different markets out. Because when we initially did, we're like, oh man, like this isn't the best for us, right? But of course, like a couple years down the line, we're like, oh crap, like this is the best event ever, you know? So I think sometimes you can't always go into something just think it's gonna be successful right away. You really have to more or less like look at the market and look at how your business strategy can like really be blended in within that market,
and also like have like a little bit of like foresight
for sure
within the community, because I even remember like when we first started doing the Ottawa Vintage Clothing Show, I think it was, and even maybe the Toronto Vintage Clothing Show, Catherine at one point, she was like all of the other people in vintage, they're getting older, they're retiring, they're not wanting to do the shows anymore, like you guys and like people like you are the new face of vintage. She's like, eventually over time, these people who carry like 1930s, like whatever,
they're gonna be dead. but it's true, they're gonna be dead, and
they're not gonna want to do the shows anymore. You know what I mean? Whereas like
and their audience isn't gonna be there.
There's gonna be too old, you know. So it's like
it
is changing. It is developing into a different thing. So like sometimes when you start something and it feels a little bit weird and awkward, it's because it's supposed to, and like it takes a little bit of time to get into that comfort and swing of things where it's like, okay, like this makes sense now.
No, 100%, right? And I think that's one thing we always have to keep doing, especially if we want to grow as a business, is like we need to always innovate. We need to always do things that are outside the box, more or less, just so we can see what is working, what's not working. For instance, like when we first started Clarendon Co., we weren't really doing vintage. We were doing more so like just like used formal or semi-formal attire, right? And we transitioned over into like the more of the vintage, the sportswear, the more casual stuff. And now we're even realizing that like there's a huge market of people that like goth and grunge clothing as well too, right? So now we're getting a lot more pieces to carry that to that market as well too, right? And I remember reading this book. It was like any plan that can't be adjusted is a bad plan. Like, you know, because it's about adaptability. If you're not able to be adaptable to the market, you're gonna be at a huge disadvantage.
And even like when I think back to when we were kind of like just starting out or like transitioning into like where we are now, like I remember there being so many moments when I was like, what are we doing? Like, what is our business? What type of like clients are we supposed to be targeting? Like, what type of products are we supposed to be carrying? And there was so much like uncertainty. But now that I look back, it's like you kind of have to go through
That's how you figure it out.
That's how you figure it out. Like, I feel like when you first start out business, it's really easy to have this like naive point of view where you think that like everything's supposed to be figured out. I think like the idea of like a business plan can kind of give you that at times, where like you'll write a business plan, you have this feeling of like, okay, like I'm supposed to have everything from point A to point Z figured out, in betweens, all inside and out, like everything's supposed to be pristine clear. But it's like, that's not realistic. Like your business may start out as one thing and then morph and change into something completely different at the end of the day, but still highly successful, still profitable. Like I feel like that's one of the things that holds people back a lot of the times, is like they feel like everything needs to be figured out right now. And it's like, that's not always the case. Like you can start a business without having anything figured out at all.
100%. Like, and I think one of the things that like people need to understand is that like a business is more or less like a metaphor for a relationship. Because imagine we went into our relationship and we're like, yeah, like we're gonna have this by that time, and bam, our life is set.
You never know.
Anything can happen. Anything can like really be thrown into the gears and just change everything off course, right? And that's essentially how business is. I think it's good that you have like good mission statement, good morals,
and a
good foundation of like what you want your business to be. But based on that, you can have you might want a low rise condo, but bam, it's gonna turn into this huge high rise. And you just never ever know with your business. So I think it's always important, of course, like have those like cemented beliefs within your business down and build off of those things. But like to always have this like timeline that's like somewhat unrealistic is unfair for you and your business, because like what if there's an opportunity that allows your business to be accelerated, right? What are you gonna do? You're gonna not skip those extra 8 steps so you can like really be put in a good opportunity?
Yeah.
Or what if those opportunities never do come and you have to do steps 1 through 8?
Yeah.
So I think it's always good, of course, like have those cemented morals within your business and have a good strategy behind it, but always be able to adapt and change. Realistic change, of course. Realistic change, you know what I mean?
Realistic change.
Definitely realistic change or whatever. And I think one thing that like we talk about too is that, especially when we were starting our business, was that like I think we fell off the business bandwagon, you know what I mean? Because when we were first doing our business, we're like, oh crap, like this is fun, this is exciting. Then like 2 months no sales, 3 months no sales, 4 months no events. We're like, holy crap, like what's going on? Like this is so hard.
So discouraging.
So discouraging. And then we found out from our system anyway, it was because we weren't consistent and we didn't really have like a cemented strategy that could work really well for us.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times with like, because the audience that we cater to, of course, is like people between the ages of 15 and 25. So young adults or like teenagers that not necessarily want to start a business, but they just want a job so they can make money. And I think there's a huge distinction between those two things.
Mm-hmm.
A job that makes money is that you're doing tasks that of course makes you money. And I think a business is that you're building a brand or building a corporation has long-term sustainability.
Yeah, it's a system.
Exactly, a system that's in place or whatever. But I think a lot of these people now, they get excited about the idea of like running a business when they're not realizing they're just more so doing a job to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, so I think like when people are able to distinguish those two things, they'll get a better understanding of what they want to do long term.
Yeah.
I've talked to some people where they're like, yo, honestly, like right now there's money in this, but I actually want to go work in construction. Like, you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think as long as you're honest with yourself and you understand like what works best for you, that's when you can like start deciding what's successful for you and what's not.
Yeah, and things can always morph and change over time. Like maybe something starts out as like a hobby where you're just making like extra cash on the side, and then it morphs into a business later on. Or maybe something starts out as a business, and then you figure out, you know, you don't really want that big of scale or system, and then you kind of scale it back, and it's just something where you're making cash on the side. So
no, 100%. Because like we even said it ourselves, right? Like we've seen like all these, like we've built like these business friendships with people like a year ago, and then it's like a year later, it's like, you know, their business just didn't last. And like it makes you ask the question, like, what happened? Like, were you guys just in this for the trend? Maybe you guys didn't really enjoy this. Like what was going on? Why you guys had like all this built up momentum, and then one day like we don't see any posts online. There's no more video. There's no more content from you guys. So what's going on? I think again it goes back to the ideas that like maybe they didn't have the best system in place to ensure their long-term sustainability.
possible.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's all possible, right? But that's why I think with us, we put out that PDF, because our PDF doesn't teach you how to run a business.
No.
It teaches you how to first do a task that allows you to get some extra money on the side, right? Because the reality of it is that like entrepreneurship and business right now is going through like this really cool renaissance where everyone just like, oh crap, I sell products online or a service, I'm running a business now. And that reality of it is like, I wish it was that simple. Mm-hmm. I really, really wish it was that simple, you know? Do you think we went through that entrepreneurial like burst where like we kind of did it just for the hype?
Yeah, like even when we remember we had Post 94.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to have this like side business called Post 94, and like we sold just like random stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like I feel like we were just like selling to sell. We weren't really like passionate about what we were doing. There was no like rhyme or reason behind it. We were just kind of like, yeah, if it sells, it sells. We had no system. We had very little consistency. Mm-hmm. Like it was just like a foolish, like unorganized thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like at that point, yes, and then even aspects of like Clarendon Co. at the time, it was very like sporadic. We were just kind of like, yeah, do this, do that, whatever, but there was no like real goal or like guidance involved. But now I feel like we're past that point.
Oh yeah, for sure, man, for sure. I think like we wanted to start a business initially, not because like based on the hype or anything, because like when we were in college and like university, like we always talked about it, you know?
Yeah.
This is maybe like 5-6 years ago, before like everyone wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Or just on the cusp of it. Probably just like on the cusp.
Just at the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, like you know what I mean? Because we've always had like aspirations of like running our own business.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do we do that or whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, so I think like yeah, it's a combination of both of us like being like, oh crap, like this is trendy, and us being like, yeah, like we'd love to have financial freedom, and also being able to dictate what we can do on our time and everything like that, right?
Yeah.
So one thing also that we're transitioning over to now is spring. Like like we know like the Carhartt jackets, leather jackets, really thick jackets were doing really well for us in the wintertime. But now transit. I know you're hungry, but we gotta finish this podcast, baby. This podcast isn't for us. It's for the people.
Why?
Because I can tell. Like I can
Why do you
tell.
have to call me out like that?
Because at the end of the day, babe, like the podcast is for them. So
Why
like,
do you have to call me out like
I
that?
have to, because like, do you not see your posture? Like your sentences are so short now. Like you're like breathing extra hard because you're so hungry. Like you should have had a snack. Like I'm sorry. Like if you can wait 3 more minutes. So with spring right around the corner, no, it's true though. You're greedy. She loves food so much. All she wants to do is eat food, guys. It's,
Okay.
it's actually annoying sometimes.
That's not true.
So of course, with spring right around the corner, we're now like gearing up to like have the best pieces that really represent the fashions that are going on right now, and also functional pieces that represent the weather as well too, right? So a lot more shorts, mom jeans with lighter washes, a lot more silk, a lot more nylon jackets, windbreakers and stuff like that are perfect for the season. And I think the good aspect about that is that we were preparing for that. So from January, we started to realize like, hey, let's get more of these pieces because spring is right around the corner. And like, that's one thing you always want to do. You always want to be a bit ahead of the curve. So you're just not there like running and scrambling around like, oh crap, like now it's time to get these when you should have been preparing for that so long ago. Because like, even though everyone like hates corporations or whatever, running a small business, you have to be some type of like system in place like a corporation. If you go to H&M for instance, right? In January, February, they have their March and summer lines getting ready to go. They have their lookbooks ready. They have all their commercials, all their media stuff ready to go, right? So I think we always need to take like the little pieces from those bigger corporations just so we remain relevant with the trends, with the times and the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
No, and I kind of like how we're doing on the online stuff. Like for the spring, we're adding a bit more color into our postings. Like we're trying to like, I'm not gonna post like 2 gray and black things. You know, I'm gonna post like something with a bit of color, and then maybe something that's like white or something. Just like keeping it in mind that it is springtime. Like people are looking for lighter, more spring type of clothing. So.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think too, just as like a cooler aesthetic to our page as well too. And because like of course like we're trying to target like a female audience now, that's been garnering a lot of attention for our page. I think they'll appreciate it a lot too. So I think that's always important. All right, guys, that's it. We didn't have the best energy today because Kyle was really hungry.
Why do you have to blame it all on me?
Because I could tell. Because Kyle was really hungry, so I apologize for that, guys. But the information, nonetheless, I hope brought you a lot of value. If you guys have any questions or concerns, please hit us up. And until next time, peace. Kyle's gonna go eat some food now because she's greedy. Okay, bye, guys.